Hi, I'm Clare Garland here at the Ashmont Grill, and today we're going to make chocolate Guinness cakes. This is a very moist cake, and we make it at the restaurant in little molds. If you don't have them at home, you can certainly make this in a 9-inch cake pan. You want it to be higher than usual, like a 3-inch cake pan, and it's delicious that way too. Of course, when you change the size of your cake, you're going to bake at a different time. So it will probably take about 45 to 50 minutes, as opposed to these take about 20 minutes because they're smaller. So the very first thing you want to do is line all your molds. If you are using a cake pan, just grease it, put some parchment paper on the bottom, and you're good to go. Preheat your oven to 350. And here we have all these little rings. Now these rings are available in specialty stores, or if you use a lot of canned pineapple, you can cut the top and the bottom off your can and use those. We also always line everything with parchment paper because nothing will ever stick. So I just have parchment paper cut in strips. I'm going to put it into the cone and then put a little tin foil on the bottom. This is a very wet cake, so if I was just going to put it on a pan and pour the batter in, it would just slide all over the place. So that's it. They're all ready to go, and we'll start making the cake. All right, now that our molds are all ready, we're ready to make the cake. And this cake is one of those cakes that takes 2 minutes to put together. In this pan, I have 8 ounces of unsalted butter. And I'm just going to turn the heat on and add a cup of Guinness. And I'm going to let the butter melt in the Guinness, and then we're going to add some sugar to it. Meanwhile, I'm going to take some sour cream and mix 2 eggs into it with a tablespoon of vanilla extract. You always want to use pure vanilla extract. Don't use anything other than that. And whisk this together. The first thing after you do your molds is always sit down for a minute, read your recipe, because you want to have all your stuff in front of you and ready, and it's always a good idea to pre-measure all the ingredients, put them all out. There's nothing worse than saying, did I put the baking soda in there? I'm not sure. Did I put the salt in? So when you have them all in little bowls, it's very easy to throw them together. You can make it a few days in advance. I would always leave it at room temperature, not in the refrigerator. Cakes that have a lot of butter in them, if you put them in the refrigerator, they get very hard because the butter will always be butter and go back into its form. Okay, so now I just put the sugar in. Now in this recipe, one other thing I do is use 2 different kinds of cocoa because I'm looking for a color. A plain natural cocoa isn't quite dark enough to really look like a glass of Guinness. So I mixed it with what's called black cocoa. And black cocoa is actually what they use to make Oreos. So it's a very familiar flavor, but you can't find it everywhere. King Arthur catalog sells it, which is a good source for a lot of different baking things. It just has a way darker color. And you want to use a natural cocoa for this, not a Dutch cocoa. It just gives it a fuller flavor. So now I've added the cocoa to this, and you can see how dark it is. This cake is wonderful with just natural cocoa too. It doesn't have to have the dark. Now I'm going to add the eggs, sour cream mixture, and then sift in the flour and the baking soda. You just mix it together and it's all ready to go in the oven. Now, with individual molds, because this is so wet, I find the easiest way to do this is to pour it into a measuring cup, a liquid measure, and then just pour it into the molds. If you're just using a big pan, you can just put it right in. Okay, now we're ready to put it into the mold. Okay, now we're ready to fill our molds. I'm just going to pour the batter into a measuring cup. And then it's probably about 1/3 of a cup per mold. And these are going to bake at 350 for about 25 minutes. But I always have to stress, every oven is different. Your 350 might really be near 400, especially in the back or something. So you got to know your oven. It's a great idea to get an oven thermometer and sort of know what you're dealing with. Also, a timer is a baker's best friend. Always set it for, if I say 25 minutes, set your timer for about 18 and check it, because it might have to be turned around. You might want to just adjust what shelf it's on, or all different things like that. There's no really set time it's going to be done. You have to sort of just look at it. When you touch the top and it springs back, then it's ready. And also, your kitchen's always going to smell really wonderful when a baked good is just ready. That's another good way to measure. So don't leave your kitchen. All right. And then these are just going to go right into the oven. So to make our Sabayon, you're going to start with egg yolks. And there's a lot of different ways to break open eggs, but I find with all the millions of eggs I've probably opened, the easiest way is to take a cold egg, tap it on the table, and just put it between your fingers. So I have 6 egg yolks there. I'm going to add some sugar, some water, a little salt, some Irish cream, and I want a pretty shallow bowl, as I have here. Whisk that together with as big a whisk as you can find. And in this, I have just a pan with a little bit of simmering water. You don't want a lot of water, because what I'm doing is I'm heating the eggs just with the steam that's in between where the water's boiling and the bottom of the bowl. You never want the water to actually touch the bottom of the bowl. It would cook your eggs. And you'll see very quickly this is going to froth all up. This is a lovely dessert even on its own. You can just have a dish of it with berries. It's very fast to make. See how it really rises up. It's amazing with just a few ingredients that are in it. Now in this bowl right here, I have melted milk chocolate and dark chocolate. And I'm going to put this into this warm Sabayon. As you can see, it's getting nice little mounds there. I'm going to give it like 30 more seconds. That's ready to come off. And I'm going to just put in this melted chocolate, whisk that together, and immediately put it in a bowl filled with ice water. See how I'm just mixing that all in. And putting it right over the ice water. And this is just going to sit for a few minutes until it's cool. And then I'm going to fold in some softly whipped cream. And when I say softly whipped cream, I don't want it to be stiff, because when you fold it in more, it could actually break the mixture and be too dense. This should be a very ethereal, light mixture. Okay. Then you just stir this for a minute or two. Chocolate, like butter, as it cools, it goes back to its original state. So it is going to firm up as it chills in the refrigerator. So if you make a Sabayon without chocolate, it won't be as firm as this one will end up being. But that's the traditional way anyway, so it wouldn't be any problem. So I'm just going to fold in this heavy cream. And when you fold things, you want to start in the middle of the bowl and come up the sides. I'm not stirring it because I don't want to deflate anything. A lot of times when you deflate, when you stir, you're actually pushing air out of the bowl. I want to put it in. And it's always better to undermix than overmix. Nobody minds a little swirl. All right, and that's ready to just be refrigerated. And that is Sabayon. Okay, we're all ready to assemble our little cake now. As I said before, if you did this in a 9-inch cake pan, what you would do is run a knife around the outside of the cake pan, flip it onto a platter, and just peel the parchment off the bottom, and you're all good to go. Here, I'm just pulling it out of the mold, taking the parchment off it, and then peeling the tin foil off. Now, you could do this in little cupcake molds and do the exact same thing. And then I just am going to gently push it in to this glass. And then you want to just wipe your glass of all your little crumbs. You can see how moist a cake it is. And just give it a little wipe. And then fill your glass with the Sabayon, which is now a Guinness foam. And this is why I do it with milk chocolate, because it really is the color of Guinness. And it's lovely to just serve it with a little chocolate mint cookie. We make our own little Girl Scout cookies here. And there you have it, the chocolate Guinness cake at the Ashmont Grill.